go. Hello, everyone. Today I have a special guest, astrologer Kelley Hunter. Welcome, Kelley.
Hi, glad to be here. It was special to meet you and special to be here with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your work?
Well, I call myself a depth astrologer and astro mythologist.
Mm.
And I started studying astrology like way a long time ago. Like in the late 60s, there was a whole wave of people becoming interested in astrology. So I started studying and decades later, here I am still in love with astrology and the language of the stars. I went to college to be a language major, but it turned out to be astrology, not French.
Oh,
So
funny. I love that. Yeah, because astrology is just never ending, right? It's like ever changing and never ending what you could learn.
there is so much you can learn and so much knowledge that can add to your astrology base, like psychology. And I got more into archetypal mythic psychology, which I call psycho-spirituality. And that became one of the helpers. I studied things like quantum physics and uh, different wisdom traditions. I'm especially interested in the cosmic feminine from different traditions and in astrology symbology.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. We have a lot in common. And it's like this, I feel this like thirst and hunger for trying to figure out like, what is the design of this place, right? Like, what are this universe? Like, what are these archetypes? And like, how do they all work together? And just, I don't know. I feel like I'm always sort of diving into the mystery in that way. And it sounds like you are too.
Yes, and it's a living mystery because we're living these archetypes where they're not dead energies, they're vibrant energies, and we can uh, almost like help evolve or keep a fresh take on the archetype
Mm,
while it is walking into our lives and guiding us for a period of time,
yeah.
longer or shorter.
For sure, for sure. There's always new lessons. Well, it's really cool. I found Kelley through watching Pam Gregory's videos. Pam Gregory is an astrologer located in somewhere in England, right?
Southern England, yes.
Yeah. And so I knew about Kelley because when you started speaking about the Kuiper Belt objects, I was just like immediately just like so interested to learn more about that. And everything you brought through really resonated. So then I'm a member of this dowsing group locally. And I see that Kelley Hunter's speaking, and I was like, oh my gosh, how cool. And it's funny what a small world it is when you find out about
Yes.
somebody from like way across the pond, and it turns out they almost live in your same neighborhood. So that was really cool. And at the talk that Kelley gave, I picked up her book, Living Lilith, Four Dimensions of the Cosmic Feminine. And it was just perfect timing because I ended up going through my own sort of Lilith initiation as I finished this book. And it was this theme around giving my power away. And what was so interesting about the whole situation is I felt like I could see how everything was going to play out. But for whatever reason, I chose to go through it all anyway.
Oh, I've been there, been there. Yeah, that's
And then
Lilith. That's interesting. Yeah, and certainly.
and then
Yeah.
when I came out of it, I was like, okay, take note, Wendy. Your intuition was bang on, and you should have listened to it. And it's okay because nothing was actually that bad about it, but it was a big lesson. And it was funny because I looked at my chart. I learned how to look up all the different Lilith placements from your book. And I had Dark Moon Lilith transiting my Chiron in Gemini, and I had asteroid Lilith transiting my Pluto in Scorpio. So it was like, and at the same time, collectively, Black Moon Lilith is opposite Saturn. So it was just like this, I feel like it made a big cross. And I was like, whoa,
It
this.
actually has been, depending on, there's so many things you can add into the astrology roster now. And you mentioned the Kuiper Belt objects, which maybe a lot of people don't know about, which is one of my latest research projects of looking at the new discoveries of small bodies out where Pluto is and beyond. And Pluto is actually the king of the Kuiper Belt.
Ooh, I love
Yeah.
that.
And now there's more and more being discovered since the new millennium, and they're being, some of them early on were named for other underworlds like Pluto, but then they went to a new category of global mythology, creator gods from global mythologies, which is so exciting for so many reasons. And so I designed and published a coloring book to introduce those.
I have
And
that right here too. Just to show everybody if you're watching.
yeah, it's not totally finished art, but it's what I came up with. So
I love it. I haven't started coloring it yet, but I want to because I love this idea of really almost meditating with each
yes,
creator
yes,
god and feeling into their energy as you color. I love that idea.
yes, yes. So, and for kids too. It's not exactly a kid's coloring book, but they can get in on it.
Yeah, why not? And you never know what wisdom they'll bring forth for you. Like it'll probably just come out, seemingly come out of nowhere and you're like, wow, where did that come from?
Sort of. It was definitely guided. I definitely had some kind of like circle of this new realm of the solar system like activated, and it is a whole new level of consciousness, which is why it's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's like quantum level. It is creator God. It's like if you can visualize something and get really intent upon it, that's in the field, and you
Yeah.
can bring it in, you can manifest that.
Well, yeah, and I feel like because of where we are in our evolution as humanity, it feels like we're being asked to create some new ways, learning
Absolutely.
from the old ways that have not served us.
Yes, creating new ways, and creating new ways from a new place in our minds or brains or hearts and souls. Yeah.
And that's interesting. This kind of brings me back to Lilith for a second, because
Yeah.
when I was reading your book, I got this transmission from her, and I had
The
to stop.
way. That's the way. Yep.
I
That's the
had to
way.
stop reading and write it down.
Yeah.
So I'd love to share it with you.
Oh, I'd like that, please.
Okay. So it's interesting because you can tell I'm sort of starting from my head and then it gradually flows. So I wrote, I feel as though Lilith is the energy cast away at the fall of Lemuria, when we only had feeling. We only procreated parthenogenetically when reason and thinking entered our consciousness. She was called crazy. She was cast out. She did not need any other for her creation, as we all were linked as a hive mind creating together, bringing life into form from the cosmos in the cosmic androgynous womb. Pleasure was natural, self-induced in every moment of fluid swimming and feeling. Through the dark waters of the planet, no sight except inner, no fright, all is well. Navigating with feeling, inner dreaming, no hard shell. When time came to harden, this was the first uncomfortable change. This was the first time Lilith had to lose her way. She refused to change, give her power away, but she never left. Even though bereft, she swims and swirls within and around us, penetrating hard shells, returning pure sight, the kind without eyes, the kind that is only seen inside.
Wow, beautiful.
And it's just like this, I feel like she's this piercing consciousness, but also this element of the feminine that wants healing or needs healing.
You are so tuning in to how I've been developing new awareness of Lilith in the last year or so, as I became aware of the working with or healing the sacred womb chakra or the holy womb chakra. And I started hearing about that, and it was really resonating for me in relation to Lilith. And a woman called to ask me to talk about Lilith to her group that was awakening the sacred womb chakra. And she had already connected it to the galactic womb chakra, which is the heart of the Milky Way galaxy, the black hole, you know. And it's not that no light can, there's an event horizon around anything, any energy field.
Yeah.
Where the light goes in and out, where the energy goes in and out. So there's that in quantum physics, especially the work of Nassim Haramein, who has done the connected universe, using the flower of life symbol as the mathematical matrix of the universal energy field that we're all part of. And this is part of the Kuiper Belt opening to that level of consciousness. But when we come back to Lilith, that is deeply seated. The Holy Womb Chakra is part of the teachings of the Divine Mother that have come from ancient Vedic texts. A lot of mantras that have to do with vibrational frequency and using them to heal and change your frequency. And also different yantras that are the geometry of these sacred energies. I think of them as almost beyond archetypes, because if this is the Divine Mother is everything, and there we have dancing at the center of our galaxy, the Shiva Shakti of all possibility, which is found inside ourselves as well.
Right. And I think that's what we've forgotten and maybe have also sort of over time been distanced from, because it's such an enormous power in a way. And I think it's everything happens for a reason, right? I think there was something else for us to learn, but now it feels like we're returning back to this. Oh, I'm remembering my connection to the Great Mother. Like this goes back beyond, like through generations, through everybody, right?
Yes.
And I feel like this is a perfect segue into your work about the journeys to the underworld, because I feel like it's through these journeys that we learn and we heal this.
Yes. Yes, because they're the different levels. There's the spiritual and the quantum field, however, which is to me ether, the fifth element, like plasma, people call it.
Yeah.
So this is the whole, like it's all there, and that basically Lilith is largely in that field of energy as well.
Yeah.
And so is the creativity. And in our womb chakra, the soul spark lives in the womb chakra through all of our lifetimes. So a lot of what needs to be healed is there.
Yeah.
And has repercussions on the heart chakra. That, we, so many of us have broken hearts from being, kind of living in the dark era of the Kali Yuga. And now the goddess is returning. We're feeling that, but we're also hearing that from different traditions. And that is, she's calling us back. She's engaging with her creative, kind of cornucopia of pouring that out, her blessings and grace.
Yeah. And I also feel this like connection from the womb to the throat, and how we can create with our word, and how that area also needs healing, so that we can create from a place of integrity rather than hurt.
It's beautiful. And that's what mantras are fabulous for. You
Hmm.
know, you often do them inside, but some of the kirtan, the music of
Mhm.
those prayers, but the mantras also, like where I'm working with the Divine Mother Center at the moment, and they stream their fire pujas, their fire ceremonies on new and full moons, and they're doing all of these mantras.
Oh.
So, there it is, the power of the voice and the changing of the frequency
Yeah.
within your body and outwardly through those mantras, the frequencies.
I love that. And I also feel like like I know that those mantras, because they're so ancient, they're so like ingrained in this morphogenetic field we're in. And it's like there's so much power in that to be remembered, right? To like connect with that ancient vibration, I guess.
And also the vibration with the living nature that we're in.
Mm,
There are mantras where you create an intimate dynamic that's embodied with
hmm.
the 5 different elements, and that creates a real capacity for healing, both
Yeah,
of yourself and the world, because you're in harmony with nature, which
right.
is the goddess.
Yeah.
Yeah, is the mother.
Yes.
So,
So,
but yes, journeys to the underworld, are very relevant now because, Pluto in astrology is one of the major gods of the underworld that we've been working with for a while, since it was discovered in 1930.
mhm,
And it represents life, death, and rebirth, that whole process of death and renewal. So it also is has a long orbit of 248 years around the sun. So it takes time to go through this all 12 signs of the zodiac.
mhm,
And we've just passed through the time when Pluto is closer to the Earth, into our solar system and our sun, than
oh,
it ever is, which
oh,
was like mid 70s, mid 90s. So it's been going through the signs faster,
mm,
which means the transformation process going on in the collective consciousness has been moving through a lot of underworld themes in the last number of years.
yeah.
And so here we are with Pluto about to change sign for the first time since 2008. When it went into Capricorn, it's about to go into Aquarius at this time when we're already feeling the return of the goddess, and that the era is changing. We're moving out of the darkness of the Kali Yuga back slowly but surely, and here's Pluto going into Aquarius. Like, the dawning of the age of Aquarius is maybe starting to see more light.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. Pluto hasn't been in Aquarius since like I think the 1790s or something.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I think like Plato wrote that the age of an empire is 250 years. And so I find it interesting if you
Wait, 250?
yeah,
250, you don't mean 1,000?
no, that would be like an age. I'm talking about government. Government's empires
Oh,
are like
oh.
250 years. So it's interesting that the US was started about that long ago. And so it feels like, we just had the US Pluto return. It's like this time for things to change and for there to be some kind of, I don't know if it's going to be a revolution, but it's definitely big time of change for sure.
I think it's a reconstitution,
Mm,
reconfiguration,
yeah.
a going back to our foundations, and did we get off track,
Yeah, yeah. I love that.
So, yeah.
And I have to ask you a question that's been coming to my mind lately. Pluto, we've seen Pluto as such a masculine archetype. Do you
Mm.
feel that mostly? I feel a
Oh,
feminine energy with Pluto.
very much. And that's been part of my interest with the cosmic feminine, is to find, in a planet, both the masculine and feminine.
Mm-hmm.
So Pluto definitely has a feeling of, the Kali in the Hindu mythology and Durga,
Uh-huh.
and hugely destructive energy based on her heartfelt compassion.
Yeah.
And there's the myth of Inanna, it's the story of how Venus moves through the sky. Inanna is Venus,
Mhm.
and she goes to the underworld, periodically, and in the myth, she visits her sister, her dark sister.
Mhm.
So she's visiting her, if we're going to psychologicalize it, then we're going to say her shadow. She meets her shadow and her unhealed, kind of like stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a feminine, a dark feminine. So
Mhm.
it's not, more like the Greek Pluto kidnapping and taking Persephone to the underworld,
Yeah.
and we can look at the Shiva Shakti energy
Mhm.
with both of these, the powerful masculine. I think of Pluto as a kind of a Shiva energy,
Mhm.
dancing the dance of life, death, you know, destruction and renewal. It's, all in his dance.
Yeah.
And then there's Kali, who works with him, is that feminine aspect, or no, they're the joint Shiva Shakti. So she's got her own power.
Mhm.
So this we can encounter in these myths of the underworld.
Mhm.
And what I've been doing lately is going back to the master's thesis I wrote. Oh my goodness, in the mid 80s,
Wow.
when Pluto was squaring my Venus. So
Oh,
I was having the goddess going to the underworld experience.
yeah.
And so I used this kind of my own psychological, spiritual journey
Mm.
to, was supported by a lot of the work of Jungian analysts who were women doing bringing forth the goddess archetypes at that point. And I was very interested in that. And I have a strong kind of Demeter Persephone thing going on because I was a single mother of a daughter for so many years.
Mm.
And then then I discovered through going to a museum and seeing some of the archaeology, the whole thing about Sumeria. It was a discovery during those years. I had no idea about the myth of Inanna. And then I joined a mythic theater troupe where we actually spent 4 years developing plays
Mhm.
that had to do with the myth of Inanna. We did 4 different plays, and one was her going to the underworld. Yeah.
Did that one express itself? Did you do it very similarly to the story or did it change at all? I'm curious.
Well, we were outside. We had fires going. It
Mhm.
was like around Halloween time.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of use of the outdoors, of saplings and hay bales and the whole field.
Mm.
The audience had to move. So it was I'm not sure I'd call it exactly a ritual, but it was a kind of celebratory seasonal thing.
Yeah.
And they'd done several myths before I joined in, but that one was, really exciting. And we had Diane Volkstein, who had written Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth,
Mm.
with one of the original translators of Sumerian cuneiform, come
Mhm.
up and share the story of Inanna.
Wow.
And um, so that it was all quite a piece of work. And so and then there was my personal journey
Mhm.
that took me through unrequited love and the death of a child and being a single mother. There were so many facets to it. So
Yeah.
I analyzed these 3 myths. And
Mhm.
the third one was the myth of Psyche and Eros,
Mm.
or Psyche and Amor. depending on, that's an old tale
Mm-hmm.
of the love affair of Psyche, who was this beautiful maiden
Mm-hmm.
who was not challenging purposefully, but she was so beautiful, people started to worship her rather than Venus. So
Oh.
Venus got a little mad, like we got stuff about her, and sent Eros with his bow and arrow to, to make her fall in love with something awful. So anyway, Eros picked himself with that arrow because she was so beautiful and brought her to this place. So it was a whole mystery, and wouldn't let her see him,
Mm-hmm.
this god of love. So it was a whole like in between place
Hmm.
that couldn't be sustained.
Mm-hmm.
And her sisters, she said, I have to see my sisters. So he let them come down, and they got so jealous, and they said, he's got to be a devil. You need to kill him. So she did take a knife out. She took a lantern, and after he was asleep, she looked at him and realized it was the god of love himself, and her hand shook and a drop of oil fell on him, and he woke up and realized that she had betrayed him. From her deep need to see, and not have this be blind love, which we kind of get into, through the chemistry dynamic that happens sometimes, in the whole erotic charge of the energy, which is what Eros is about.
Yeah.
But Psyche has to go to be reunited. She had to surrender to Venus and go through these 4 really difficult tasks, like tests that were really about her maturing her feminine energy, so that she was not just a laid back, kind of unconscious in love, but to be conscious in love, to be awake, and to awaken herself and her own capacity for love and self-love.
Yeah.
Then reunites her with Eros. And how that happens is the last task that Venus sets her to do is to journey down to the underworld and approach Persephone, the queen of the underworld, and ask her for a vial of her beauty cream for Venus. So even just to get down there, all of these tasks, she had a lot of helpers helping her through them. And so, she was told what she had to bring: biscuits for the dogs and coins for the ferryman, and not to get distracted by any of the dead souls drawing upon her, and don't eat anything while you're down there. And so she did it all. She got there, and Persephone gave her some of the beauty cream. So she goes back. It's still dangerous. She still has to make that journey. And then she surfaces to the light of day, and she looks at this vial of beauty cream and says, I want to look beautiful for Eros. I'm just going to take a little tiny bit. So she opens it, and she swoons into a kind of coma. She swoons into unconsciousness. And Eros swoops down and sweeps her up into his arms and brings her up to heaven. And so this is her, she's surrendered to love so deeply that she was made immortal and married the god Cupid, or Eros. Now, Eros is not this really little angel with the bow and arrow. That is so superficial. Eros is the enormous creative force and passion that emerge from chaos with Gaia to be, from the desire to be. So it's way beyond, the whole erotic sexual thing. Life is inherently sexual, but it's a deeper power than that has a creative force. And that's kind of what I was thinking of in terms of this story, that it's creative passion that is the transformational energy. And that is one aspect of Pluto, which is, life, death, and rebirth, but the rebirth is recreative.
Yes.
So
and
that's
he can be so almost obsessive too, that Pluto archetype, I feel like.
yes, it can be very compulsive and obsessive. And also it's where you confront fear or choose love. Can't have both.
Yeah.
And it is a choice, and it's a scary choice, because like you were just talking about, claiming your power, claiming your capacity, your creative capacity, claiming your consciousness, of divinity.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that whole story. Just, oh my gosh, it says so much. I love myth so much because it goes beyond words. It speaks to your soul. And but I love the part where she goes to the underworld for this beauty cream. I kind of see it almost as like her regaining her inner light and realizing the beauty comes from within, and then it feels like that that it's interesting, that whole surrender, and then Eros coming down from heaven and scooping her up. That just
and what's his story? He didn't want her to see him. Why? And then he runs back to his mother. I don't know, does he? Sometimes I see that, because it's like something about the masculine can like pull back too.
Yeah.
And maybe Eros had never been in love before. Like, had he ever pricked himself with his own arrow before? But anyway, there's something about that, and that love transforms him as well.
Yeah, I just feel like it's that recognition of the divine within that we've forgotten. And it's like that's how it becomes remembered, is from this like true love. And sometimes it has to be initiated by a giant heartbreak to really crack you open to like
feel that strongly. Sometimes people don't really have very strong feelings.
So maybe this is what the Kali Yuga, maybe that's the agenda for it. Not just, agenda is not the right word, but maybe that's the purpose of humanity going through a darker phase, is like, why don't we experience this facet of consciousness, and let's see if we can crack ourselves back open to our divinity.
Exactly. Yes, that's what I just heard someone say, that we forget who we are in order to find ourselves and rediscover again, another facet of the capacity of the, infinite capacity of the divine. So that's so spot on. So I was, like you were reading about your experience, this is largely a report on my own process that went on when Pluto transits something. It's usually a good 2 years. And so I was going through, kind of all kinds of emotions, from loss and unrequited love, and Eros and Thanatos, love and death. And so I was writing poetry and doing a lot of drama therapy and other kind of processes to help release, to help express, something of this energy. And now that was when Pluto was just entering Scorpio. A powerful place for it. And you
Oh, yeah.
have that place, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a powerful generational challenge to go that deep. And
Oh,
this
I'm
is funny.
laughing because he's huge for me. Like he's conjunct my South Node. He's on my Sun and Venus right now. I've had him opposing Uranus. I mean, Pluto is he's my teacher and my medicine. So
Absolutely.
I hear you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Pluto's is the light in the dark.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that.
It's a dark light.
Yeah.
And the black moon is rather like that herself. Yeah. So I want to read one of the poems I wrote.
I would love
And
that.
so I mean, this is one of the shorter ones. So it's one of the reasons. It's called Let Us Go Back to When We Were Lovers. The earth changed with our touch. A channel to the sea coursed in waterfalls and whirlpools. In the cup of a mountain crater, we lay upon rocks soaked in heat. Now the day star sinks into night. We come apart as though to sail a remote voyage. For a long moment, I shall remain in a memory of sorrow, then follow the flight of my heart to join you in the dawning.
I love that. Such a story of the coming apart to go kind of find themselves and then to come back together. And that's like our journey as humans, right? To like descend from the oneness and then to try to find it again.
And that's just what Psyche and Eros is about, especially following her process of separation and how she found her own self-awareness and empowerment through that and her capacity for love. So that's so now, Pluto, that was in the 80s. And that was the shortest time Pluto spends in a sign, because it's like, okay, it's closest than it ever gets. It's in its own sign of Scorpio, and it only is there for 12 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't
When
realize.
Pluto's on the other side of the sky in Taurus, it's farther away, and it takes 30 years to go through that sign.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
So.
you know what really strikes me about everything you just presented is just with your own journey, and I can resonate with this too, is how like you transmuted what you were going through being creative. And I feel like I don't know if that's something that people associate with Pluto, but that's the way that I feel like I get through the really hard underworld times too. I just have to create. I don't know what else to do. Aside from feeling all the feelings, but it's like I have to. I have to turn it into something better, And that's a choice, right?
That's the recreative. You take that energy, and if you can't have that outlet, you have you make another one. And I have Pluto in Leo, which is a creative sign. So my generation with Pluto and Leo really needs creative therapy, and invented a number of them.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, so it feels like all of this is coming up in a moment where we just had, do you follow the Venus gates at all? When Venus conjuncts the moon?
Oh, a little bit.
Okay.
Especially when I can see it.
Yes. So right now she's actually like in her meta goddess phase of Leo, and she's in morning star phase. So she's on her journey to the underworld.
Wait
And
a minute. Wait
yes,
a minute. Wait a minute. Venus is in Scorpio right now.
yes, but when she began her cycle in Leo, so
I see. The new Venus and the new
yeah,
584 years. day
Yes.
cycle. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
actually just a year and a half long cycle, but she just went through her heart chakra gate. So this is
okay.
where
Okay.
she's
Okay.
releasing,
I
this
see.
deep grief in the heart. And this is in Scorpio. So
Yes.
it's like deep ancestral. I felt this like huge release. And this was actually conjunct my South Node and Pluto. And it was like I felt it so deep through my mother line. It was incredible. And then it felt like, but it felt so good. Like it felt like something that really needed to happen to lighten and to move forward with a lighter heart and with this creative energy that you're talking about. And I think it's interesting too that like the beginning of this cycle is Leo, the Leo meta goddess. So it's like more about stepping into the purity of the heart and this childlike wonder, and using that to create. Because also, like when we're looking at the world through, I feel like we have this chance to look at the world through a child's eyes almost, to like see what's possible, maybe to let go of our differences a little bit and
The
to really,
wonderment and the enchantment.
yeah. So I feel like yeah, that's just, I was thinking of that as you were talking about the creative process and turning things into something new. And our conversation, like we were talking about earlier, how the astrology is alive. What I feel in this conversation so far is more of the lighter side of the underworld journey and Pluto's energy and more of that creative aspect of it. And I just wonder if you feel like perhaps humanity is being invited, to step into that phase of it. I mean, I know it's different for everybody, but just wondering if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, I do think this is a major turning point of an era. And with these new Kuiper belts and the emergence of the goddess and the quantum awareness in the field of ether,
Mhm.
we are absolutely being invited. And that Venus retrograde we had this past July, August was very profound because Venus was accompanied by the black moon in
Mm,
Leo the whole way.
mm,
So it went deeper than Venus even usually does into the heart down to the womb chakra because I've become sensate really about Lilith being connected, being that holy womb chakra.
mm,
That the heart and the womb chakra work together and they both have, this healing energy and they were brought together in that Venus retrograde. She went to connect with the holy womb chakra and with that deep, dark Lilith revitalization, that reemergence energy
mhm,
of the goddess, the the Kali Pluto goddess or Durga.
mhm.
That's another one of the very powerful. They're all like the same goddess at heart.
Yeah.
So Pluto now going into Aquarius
Mhm,
is so when Pluto went into Scorpio and it was squaring my Venus.
mhm.
I have Venus in Aquarius.
Okay.
So now Pluto is going to be going across my Venus, circling my Venus. And it's like, okay, well, I sure don't want to live it the way I lived it last time. This has got to be way more beautiful.
Yeah.
And thank goodness I'm older and know myself better, and that this is going to be a whole new experience. And I'm feeling like I can help create this experience. That's what it's about. So
I
Pluto went into Aquarius in late March into June, and it's back in Capricorn until January 20th. And then it makes one more touch back into Capricorn. So we clean things up a little better. We
Mhm,
can't use those old methods. We got to keep going into the new. And that would be in September, October. And then in November of 2024, we're fully into a 20-year phase with Pluto in Aquarius, which is just going to be like, how are we creating the
Mm,
social context we want to be living in globally?
yeah. Yeah.
Love and peace and all of those beautiful, divine. And we've got to feel we can't be disconnected from our feelings. Aquarius is an air sign of intellect and higher mind, but it doesn't always engage the heart as deeply as Scorpio does, kind of thing. So we need to watch out for all this artificial weirdness
Mhm.
and be embodied and really in our hearts, really, really centered in our hearts.
Well, I feel like, a lot of the astrological transits that have been happening leading up to this transition have really helped us to talk about that Scorpio Taurus nodal axis we were going through. It's like, okay, you want to learn about feeling your feelings before we have Pluto go into Aquarius. Here you go. It's like, hopefully these have been invitations and initiations to help ready us for what we're going into. But it's
And new Kuiper Belt objects. And one of them, Haumea, the Hawaiian goddess of childbirth, she's all about the holy womb chakra. She
mm,
just went into Scorpio.
ah, it's amazing. So how does that, you feel like that's a very extremely regenerative energy?
Yes, absolutely. To me, Scorpio is like the subatomic field.
Mm.
And when certain, fields align, we get solid matter, and that's Taurus, the opposite sign. So if we don't like what's happening, we need to go down to the subatomic level and rearrange the atoms, rearrange the molecules, the electrons. We need to do this kind of alchemy.
Yeah.
And then we have a different outcome. And that's what, is on offer right now with Venus and Scorpio. She's looking over at Jupiter and Taurus and saying, okay, if I do this, if I let go, if I reconfigure, if I feel it through and let go,
Mhm.
but it says, yep, you're going to have another outcome and it's going to be a lot better.
Mm. Yeah.
Collectively, even, you know.
Yeah. It feels like we've got a little bit of luck on our side there. And a teacher. And it's interesting too, when I think of Aquarius, I was looking into the symbol one time and I learned that that little wave symbol actually is an Egyptian hieroglyph that means mu or water, which mu takes us back to Lemuria.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I think it's really interesting. I always think of the water bearer as like the memories being returned through the frequency, through information, through this field. It's like I see Lilith, like swimming around us and helping us remember. And obviously there's all of the, like you said, the weird kind of AI tech stuff that's coming into the world as well. But um I feel like it's just so interesting to think about that axis of the Scorpio Taurus and then the Aquarius and Leo, and that they're fixed. How do you feel about Pluto going into a fixed sign?
Well, you have it in Scorpio, a fixed sign.
Yeah.
Don't you going deeper and deeper and deeper?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I was kind of thinking like with it, like maybe this is my Taurus side, my Taurus moon, but I kind of feel like with the fixed signs, I'm like, I don't want to change. I don't want to change. Like I can feel a little bit of
Ah,
resistance.
Until you're really ready.
Yeah.
Scorpio wants to go through every drop and
Yeah.
not have anything come back to haunt you. It's like, got to do it to the last drop and then I can let go.
Yeah.
Then it'll change
Yeah.
spontaneously,
Yeah.
because the energy is not there. So you are the people who go and stand around a polluted pond and send love to the water, and it transforms, like the message of water by Masuto Emoto, right? And
Yeah.
also the more modern work of Veda Austin, who is also communicating directly with water molecules. Yeah.
Yeah. Water is huge, I feel like, for what we're going into and just this again, it comes back to the memory and remembering, as water holds memory, and we remember, well, we're mostly made of water, and how do the frequencies in our technology affect us? And how can we use those in healing ways too? Like, I have a little micro current device that I can use for healing. So there's a lot of different ways that it's sort of like the electricity and the electrical currents can be used either
Right.
for our health or detriment, right?
Well, we need the positive frequencies, and
Yeah.
we need to raise the frequencies, which is what is happening. We're getting our frequency raised. So we have to like, work through all that. And yeah, so this Aquarian, so interesting. The water bearer, a lot of people think Aquarius is a water sign, but it's an air sign. It's like the clouds that carry the water and then drop it and eat it, kind of thing. So this again, this engagement with the elements as a conscious interaction, we're learning a lot about that with water, but it can happen with the other elements too.
Oh, I love
Fire is
that. That gives me a new kind of perspective on the fixed cross there too. It's like
yeah.
maybe a return to those understanding those elements as well.
Well, the cardinal signs, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and Aries, start things out. They're on the front lines. They're creator energies. And then the fixed signs stay with it and go deeper with it and unfold more of the potential and sustain it.
Yeah.
And then the mutable signs change it up.
Yeah.
Finish it and change it up.
Yeah.
So they're more like interactive, but the fixed signs can really stay with something. They can go really deep in there, all of them. Both, Scorpio would be the feelings and the passions and intensity and that creative recreativity we were talking about. And Aquarius is like, has a broader perspective on the larger picture than any other sign. It steps back to do that. It just has to watch that it doesn't step back too far and disconnect.
Right. Right.
And then Leo, the heart of Leo, it's like, I'm that generation that is Pluto and Leo. We're wrestling with our egos. We're transforming the small s self to the capital S self without losing our sovereignty.
Yeah.
Or, buying into the fact that we're being selfish. Who else is ourself?
Yeah.
And then expressing the, be all you can be, what is one of the army mottos for my generation. And it feels like that. And then what's the other one? Taurus. Yeah, Taurus is like, if it's worth it, I'm going to see this all the way through and plant seeds of forests that will last for hundreds of years, kind of thing.
Yeah. I love all of that. And I can see Pluto in Aquarius as well, like connecting our science and spirituality, like how you said you're interested in quantum physics. Like I could see that maybe becoming more mainstream, like an understanding of how we create reality or co-create it.
It's better because a lot of our technology is becoming quantum technology, and all our systems are all going quantum.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a bit of a learning curve, but good for us in so many ways as we're becoming more of a global and even maybe intergalactic, society.
Yeah, for sure. So interesting. So was there anything else you wanted to share about the underworld journeys, or where you think we are right now on this journey as like a collective?
Well, going into a new theme with this. So, Pluto and Capricorn is coming to a close. All the structures and systems we've been living under are like just falling apart. And also there's a whole questioning about power hierarchies and the elites versus the, people on the other end. And, all of that is becoming out of date. Especially as we are so interconnected with information and that kind of technology. I mean, we want it to be healthy frequency. but we are so interconnected now. And I think, we've got the internet, but what about the internet?
I love it.
And aren't we vibing with certain people, like groups of people and communities and circles, and all of that is like, it's just naturally weaving together in this larger fabric that we're all part of, and so interconnected.
Yeah, I'm seeing the flower of life again. Like when you say that, I'm seeing the different circles of people as a different circles of the flower of life. And I can see how as each circle of people help each other resonate in their truest form, that makes like that whole flower so much stronger. And I also feel like I can see with Veda Austin's work, how she'll take say like free range eggs and like factory farmed eggs and compare them, and the factory farmed eggs will give you this sort of like staticky pattern when she freezes the liquid, and then when you look at the free range, sorry, I'm losing track of thought, the free range, they look very harmonious and they make like these snowflake patterns. But then she started to take those eggs and put the free range next to the conventional, and the conventional started to change, because I feel that the power of nature is so inherently healing and so regenerative that I just feel like there's no way you can really stop her regenerative processes. Even you look at like places like where are the places with the atomic bombs they set off, like Fukushima, and how nature just comes back with a vengeance, and just like recovers these cities that were completely destroyed. It feels like the more we're in resonance with what our true nature is and with nature herself.
That's exactly it. Our true nature. And that's the polarity complement sign of Aquarius is Leo. So that's about self-sovereignty. That's about being really clear with, this is who I am. This is what I'm contributing. This is where I stand. This is, the core of myself. I am self-centered in that most positive way.
Yeah.
And then we make then everybody's contributing, the best to what they've got coming from the heart.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, would you like to share, do you have anything to share about the Kuiper Belt objects that are they in the sky in any places right now that feel like invitations for us?
Well, I want to mention that Haumea again, because what you were just saying was so that.
Okay. Yes.
This ever regenerative energy.
Mm-hmm.
And Haumea, she seems to be one of the favorites.
Mm-hmm.
She was the mother of Pele and the volcano goddess. So she has that kind of energy. And there are some of these Kuiper Belt objects, small as they are, have moons. And Haumea is egg-shaped.
Oh,
Rotates over the long end.
interesting.
Yes. And then she has two other daughters. One of them is Hi'iaka, who is the hula dance goddess. And she's so connected to the land. I think all of these creator gods and goddesses are really connected to the land they were recognized in, the name that named them. And so there's the hula dance goddess, and also Namaka is a powerful mermaid energy that is about like, when the fiery lava comes down from the sea, down to the sea. Here's Namaka like throwing all the ocean water at it to cool it off, and then it makes new lands, kind of thing. So there's a lot of powerful energy there, but she's always creating. And in Scorpio, it's from that passionate place, the deepest desire. Can we let go of all of the desires except the deepest, truest, and create from there?
Yeah.
And we're looking for that, something to really get our energy into,
Mhm.
and to in a kind of unity consciousness that, where it's going to be just amazing.
Yeah. I kind of saw as you're talking about these creator gods, I noticed like I saw Jupiter in Taurus and it's like what a better time to learn about them, right? Than when Jupiter is going through this earth sign and really helping us to understand the earth at a deeper level, like maybe understand these creative forces. Something else I just love about nature is if you really go out and you're just quiet and you really look at the patterns of the leaves and you look at how a fern spirals and you see how, the veins on a leaf are look like the tree that it came from. You just notice all these little things. It's like those are you're being shown creation right there. Like there's the mystery. Not that we can necessarily see
All the
it.
goddess is called, nature. It's the nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, so have any more questions on your end? Or I lost track of time, so I don't know how time is going here. I've really been losing track of time, period.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. I think I'm good. I mean, we covered a lot pretty quickly, honestly. It Yeah. But if there's anything else you'd like to talk about, I'd love to hear about it.
Uh um well, because it's on my mind, this, I'm calling it Pluto and the Underworld Mysteries, at least as a working title,
Hmm.
and about, the goddess. And I'm going to be sharing more, about this to refresh the material for myself.
Yeah.
And, so, and I give specialty readings. I am an active astrologer, and I work, in general with, the flow of your chart. Oh, and here's something I want to say about, that, speaking the language of the stars, which is an intuitive symbolic language.
Mhm.
And that's what I called my thesis. It had to have an academic title, right? So it's Astromythology and the Psychological Value of Symbolic Language. And that's how I got into the archetype of Pluto and my own journey with that. It was very healing for me to do this research and this work. And that's keeping the astrology alive. And when I look at some of these charts, it's like the field that is evoked between us or with us, where the planets come in and inform, what's going on. And sometimes some of these new Kuiper Belt comes in. Sometimes people want the Lilith reading. So I
Mhm.
have some specialty readings, and I have my website, which is called heliastar.com. And I've been using that name, Helia Productions, for a really long time, because in I was looking for sun goddesses for a really long time, and I finally, did find some really good books on the sun goddess, because Helios is the sun god, but Helia is the sun goddess.
Mm. Yeah, I'm very mesmerized by the solar goddess. I wasn't really aware of that archetype until more recently. And it's so beautiful because it feels
Yeah,
like, I mean, just all facets, I guess, of the goddess are something that have sort of fallen to the wayside. But
right, exactly.
whatever reason, I was getting into more of the lunar and the darker aspects first. And then when I rediscovered a little bit of the solar goddess, I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Yeah, so that's
Creative power. She has the creative power of birthing.
yeah.
And so there were sun goddesses in the older cultures. You went back as far as Lemuria, but there's also like the I think Neanderthal times, like when there wasn't a lot of history written,
Mhm.
but there are still, say, traditional dances and ceremonies that go way back to that time.
Mhm.
And I came across it when I found Patricia Monahan. She wrote a lot about the goddess. She wrote, I think, the Goddess Encyclopedia. I'm not even quite sure. She wrote a lot about the goddess, and one of her books was Oh Mother Sun,
Mm.
looking back at myths of the goddess that go back, the first Korean women shamans. The some were up in the is it the Baltic that they had the sun goddesses crowned with candles and beautiful powerful goddesses. So that book is a great resource, and Oh Mother Sun,
Oh, good
that
to know.
was a life
Thank
changer
you.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Something I'm amazed by is how you said you started to get into this work in the 80s. And it's interesting how every one of us has our own journey into, when we rediscover these things or start to remember. But I just want to really honor that. I feel like you're such a pioneer in this work and in astrology and the returning of the goddess. And I'm just like still beginning this journey, so it's amazing to hear that you've been studying it and learning about it since then. And I'm just really grateful that you're passing along this knowledge and wisdom.
Well, that's, I think, a responsibility when one gets older and has more experience under one's belt and has made mistakes and failed and lived to tell the tale. And
Awesome.
it's a joy to kind of see, younger women like you, like waking up so soon, and it's to that power and living it. This is and the new children coming in having such a different level of consciousness, and also their own kind of generational things, like their Pluto generation. What do they have to overcome? What do they have to like challenge? It with confronting fear and bringing it into love. That's so essential to me with Pluto, and that's why in essence the Pluto and Persephone story is a love story. It's just a very different kind of one.
Hmm. Yeah. Well,
Like Eros.
I really enjoyed it because I wasn't super familiar with that one, and it just really speaks to me. So I really appreciate you sharing today. And
If you want a really a small book that's a really lovely intro to the story of Psyche and Eros, it's the book called She
mhm.
by Robert Johnson.
Okay.
I think he wrote 3 books: We, She, and He.
Okay.
Use a myth to talk about the psycho-spiritual development in a woman, and that would be the Psyche and Eros story. And I think it was Parsifal and the Holy Grail for the He. So anyway, good book. It's not long. It's kind of like doesn't go into way academic, footnote stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kelley. I really enjoyed this.
Yes, me too. Thanks for inviting me, and especially on this topic, which this is definitely a catalyst moment. I appreciate you, to help me get back into it and, kind of refresh and kind of update what is some kind of old language.
Yeah. And it feels like it's all changing so quickly too. Do you feel that?
Oh, I do. I
Yeah.
do. Well, I mean, there's some astrological reasons for that, but because we have Pluto changing sign 23-24. Neptune changes sign 24-5-6.
Hmm.
Uranus changes sign 25-26.
Hmm.
Right in a row, the outer planets that have so much to do with our collective consciousness. It's
Yeah.
going to be so different, in a few years. It's like, wow, do you remember 2023?
Yeah.
God.
And even coming into this conversation, I kind of had the intention of coming at it like, oh, we're going to talk about the underworld, and we're going to talk about it because like I don't want people to be afraid of the underworld. And then as we're sitting here talking about it, that's just gone. It's
Ah,
I'm like, that's gone. Like we're talking about creation. So I find that really interesting too. Not that you
well,
can
it's
skip those
death and
parts.
rebirth. That's two sides of the same coin. I want to tell you a little story about,
Yeah.
I gave a workshop in October,
Mhm.
and there were 12 of us. And there were some Pluto and Leos. There were
Mhm.
some Pluto and Virgos. I think the whole, no, I think we missed out on the Pluto and Libra group because they must have been somewhere else. There were three Pluto and Scorpios. So I was giving a little lighthearted thing, about Pluto and about how the Pluto and Leo people want to die looking good. About vanity, and we do, yeah. And then the Pluto and Virgo people want to die when their bodies are in perfect shape. They're fitness kind of people and health nuts, because like you said, where Pluto is can be a little obsessive.
Yeah.
And then, we didn't have anybody about the Pluto and Libra, but we had a couple of Pluto and Scorpios. And I'm turning to them, and one woman who'd been very quiet, she blurted out, "We just want to die." And it was so wild and so stark, right? And she said, "I bring up the subject of death whenever I can because people need to think about it. It's part of life. You can't escape it. And people are afraid of death."
Well, I have a really funny quick story to tell you to follow that up. You reminded me of the very first time I met my husband's brother. We were at a party. So, I'm in party mode, but I meet his brother and I say, "Oh, I love your brother so much. He's such a great guy." And then I go right into, "So how do you want to die?" I'm a little drunk. I gotta preface it with that too. I'm like, "So how do you want to die?" And he looks at me weird and I go, "I want to go down a giant slide into a T-Rex's mouth." I just was like, "What?" And so that's not wrong. We think about it a lot.
Definitely coming from an inebriated place
Oh,
there.
definitely, definitely.
But
But
it opens up, it gets raw, right? It's
yep,
like, you know, you're not hiding. Oh, that's interesting. That
yeah,
is
the
really
first thing that I asked him, I'm like, "Okay, that's some Pluto and Scorpio right there." But I was still having some fun with it as well. We want to say, don't take it too seriously. Have fun while you're here.
right. That is, yeah, Pluto and Leo. We like parties.
Yeah,
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 let's have fun. It can be very serious, but let's have fun doing it.
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, thank you again. And
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
great talking with you, and I hope we'll do it again.
yeah, I'd love that. Thanks so much.